Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Amrita, and a very, very warm welcome to Kotak Securities Union Budget Expectation. Our experts today talk about the various important aspects of the upcoming budget, helping you to make more informed decisions in the next financial year. This evening, the session will be divided into two major presentations, followed by a question and answer round. And now, let me take the pleasure of introducing this first speaker of the evening. I have with me Upasana Bhardwaj, Senior Economist and Head of Economic Research for Kotak Mahindra Bank. She has been part of the group since 2011. Upasana's expertise lie in analyzing domestic as well as global microeconomic issues and their implications on the financial markets worldwide. She regularly features across prominent business channels and print media publications. Upasana has worked in ING Vysya Bank, ICICI Bank, and the Energy Research Institute. Prior to her research role, she served as an economic lecturer in Delhi University. She is also a co-author of many prestigious economic papers. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Upasana Bhardwaj. Upasana, welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, ahead of the budget, I would first like to just set the tone as to what we at Kotak expect overall the economic backdrop to be going ahead, and in that context, what do we really expect, or what should we expect from the budget? So, if I was to talk about the growth, clearly, FY21 has been a very unprecedented shock that we've seen. And from there, the economy has also emerged much more sharply. The revival has been quite sharp and much more than what anybody had anticipated. So we're seeing that kind of a normalization in activity at a much faster clip. What lies ahead? Clearly, it is going to be a significant bounce back. Because of a very low base effect, we are going to see a significant bounce back in activity even into next year. So from about 7.5% real GDP contraction into from a FY21, we are looking at closer to 9.3% to 10% growth next year, which should imply a nominal GDP growth of approximately 14%. Now, what really happens in this kind of a context is that first half of FY22 is likely to be extremely, high, the growth, because of a base effect. But as we moderate into the next second half of the year, we still have to see whether the drivers of growth are going to continue. As of now, there is a pent-up savings that we are seeing, which is resulting in this kind of a spending spree and hence supporting growth. Now, whether that is going to continue into the next year, even beyond the base effect, is something which we remain skeptical about. And that's where I believe that the role of the government will be very important. That's where policymakers as a whole, rather, I should say. Now, here in this context, as we talk about growth, there is a pickup in demand that is expected. We're looking at revival in activity worldwide, of course. If you look at the IMF projections, IMF2 has revised upward its world GDP growth. And clearly, the commodity prices seem to be on an uptrend. All in all, the price pressures will be building up going ahead. So in that context, the monetary policy accommodation, which we are seeing today, is likely to be withdrawn, whatever pace the RBI decides about, but there will be a slight withdrawal which is expected. Now, in that context, when the monetary policy accommodation is getting slightly withdrawn, we can ill afford a tight fiscal policy. So what we need is really a fiscal support to ensure that the nascent revival that we are seeing right now continues even beyond the base effects into next year as well. So that's where I think our expectations on the budget is going to be important. The finance minister has mentioned that this is going to be, once in a lifetime kind of a budget. So expectations are building really high when it comes to that. And I would say that the basic premise, keeping aside the fiscal maths, which I can come to a little later, but broadly, the key foundation of the budget probably would be in terms of defining the vision for a medium term sustainable high growth. I think that is something which we are looking for in the budget. The pillars of growth for a sustainable high growth. Because if we don't really see a reformist kind of a budget, then my fear is that we could really get stuck in the 5 to 6% growth trajectory for a prolonged period of time. So that's where I think it becomes important to keep in mind what all can we expect from the government, from the budget, to ensure that we can see a relatively high growth, not just for 1 year, but sustain that into next 5 years or 10 years. So the first tenet that we expect a lot of focus is in terms of ensuring that there is going to be adequate push to infrastructure. There's always been a push to infrastructure, I would say, by the government, but the constraints are immense, and the constraints are largely coming from the sources of financing. So while the focus has always been on infrastructure, we need to keep in mind that without having adequate resources, we are not going to be able to meet those targets that are set for the medium term. Especially when it comes to infrastructure, we have long-term gestation projects, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And that's where there is very limited sources of financing that is available. Banks have their own constraints. Most of the limits, the exposures have been hit, and the balance sheets are a little stretched. And if we were to look at this entire scheme of things, we do need a new source of funding for the infrastructure. So that is where I believe the government will spend a lot of time in the budget explaining as to what exactly and how they plan to do. In that context, I'll just like to remind you of one of the policies which was announced during the month of May under the Atmanirbhar scheme, was the public sector entities privatization policy, which was being discussed. We are awaiting clarity on that, but probably the public sector entities privatization drive, if it was to get formalized and be announced in the budget, we could really see a very reasonable source of revenue coming for financing of the infrastructure. And that is a win-win situation, because we sell productive assets and we are going to create productive assets. So, the resources will be utilized to the optimum. And that is something which I think could be utilized. The other important aspect could be external sources of financing. We haven't really tapped as much, I would say, in terms of external sources of financing for now. If we look at actually, in general, the ownership is very low compared to the rest of the world, or rest of the EM peers, let's say, for India's sovereign debt. It's just 1.6% of the total sovereign debt compared to the likes of China, for Indonesia, Malaysia, which is north of 25%. So India does have a lot of room to increase dependency for long-term infrastructure productive asset creation on external financing. So I think there could be some clarity which could be provided in terms of global bond index, inclusion of India in the index. It's already being talked about. It's nothing new. But again, most of the measures, I believe, which will be announced may not be necessarily new. But what is important to have is to have a much more concrete policy behind that, a much more believable, credible, and a concrete policy. I think that is going to be more important. So even regarding the global bond index, I do expect some clarity as to when, what that could happen. There is also talk about, and I think that's reasonably good, if for some of the key important strategic foreign investors, if a special window could be opened for big ticket investment, that also could provide a good avenue for the government. A development financial institution, which used to be the case, if we talk about quite a few decades back, we did have the likes, and something like that can be established again. again, like I said, these are not something which is first time heard of announcements, but they are very important when it comes to today. Why? Because the multiplier of spending in infrastructure is going to be much higher for growth enhancement or for income support on a sustainable basis. And that is the reason I'm emphasizing that we do expect a lot of emphasis on or focus on from the union budget. Apart from that, there are expectations in terms of banking sector reforms, the financial sector reforms. The banks do, public sector banks do require fair amount of recapitalization. So we'll have to see what will be the form of that recapitalization, but without ensuring that there's adequate capital for the public sector banks, financing a higher growth path is also going to be very difficult going ahead. So we do expect some of the measures coming there. Divestment will play a very important role. So when I say public sector entities privatization drive, a divestment stake sale is subsumed in that. I would want to believe that we get a much bigger and a broader policy rather than just coming out with a very aggressive divestment stake sale number in the budget, because that's historically we've seen that a very aggressive number is never achieved. We've always been falling short on the numbers in terms of divestment numbers. So I would rather have a much more broad-based policy, and in that then have a timeline defined as to which are the entities which could be undertaken. So, overall about 15 lakh crore worth of market cap is there for the public sector entities if the government was to divest or privatize rather fully. A certain proportion of that can easily be utilized for funding of infrastructure. So I think that is there. Now, if we were to talk about, so this is something which I believe very firmly why infrastructure should be important is because construction activities get ramped up significantly, and that has a very significant multiplier because employment in that segment is going to be very high, and hence it's a positive chain reaction that we tend to see. The forward and the backward interlinkages are very strong. Similarly, for the real estate sector, I think we could expect some kind of support coming so that again the construction activity gets a support. But apart from that, we have to also realize that the government is not still in the government finances, I should say, is not in a very it's not very strong right now. The balance sheets are stretched again for the government as well, and in that context, even if tax buoyancy is expected to bump up high, we see that the corporate earnings projections are extremely high for next year. That should allow for a reasonably high corporate tax collections. Income tax collections also could bump up higher. So overall tax buoyancy is expected to improve into next year. We're looking at about 20% growth in gross tax collections. That is a reasonable jump up from this year. But nonetheless, despite the tax buoyancy that we're looking at, I think the government will be constrained in terms of excessive spending. So we're looking at about 7% growth possibility in terms of expenditure growth. But the expenditure prioritization will be very important to keep in mind. And that is something wherein we are expecting that the capital expenditure growth is going to be north of 12%, and probably revenue expenditure, which is relatively got a much lower multiplier, is going to be much lower in terms of the growth projections. So overall, we are looking at a fiscal deficit number of 5.5% from a 7.1% fiscal deficit from FY21. Now, here again, it's a little tricky, I would say, because the government's pattern of spending, if we look at this year, has been quite dismal. Apart from November, if we look at the center's spending has been either flat to negative vis-a-vis the previous year, despite the pandemic. So, and because of that, what's happening is the government is actually sitting because they have a defined borrowing plan, which is more or less done with. And apart from the borrowing program, all the tax collections are happening. There's an improvement in the tax collections. And keeping all of that in mind, Despite that, the spending is not picking up. So government is sitting with a lot of cash balances. For now, we should be closer to about 3 lakh crore, maybe a little higher, that the government is sitting with. Now, as per the budgeted numbers, if I was to, or the expected number by end of the year, ideally they should end the year with only 1 lakh crore of cash balance, which means they should ideally spend whatever they're getting from now. And that is something which we're yet not seeing. There is some constraint to spending that we are witnessing. What that really means is that if this amount of cash balance that the government is sitting with is not going to be spent, then we could actually see a fiscal deficit number lower than 7.1%, because clearly even in the next 2 months they will not be spending. So we need to wait and watch whether what they really announce in the budget. But if they were to really go with an aggressive target this year, because they don't want to overshoot to 7% or so, then we might see that the government really spends less in the subsequent 2 months as well, and announces a number lower than 7%. So we'll have to wait and watch exactly what happens. But our estimate today tells us that if they were to kind of maintain a flattish growth as well from last year over the next 3 months, overall next 2 months of this financial year, we should end up with about a 7.1% fiscal deficit for FY21, and 5.5% is what we are budgeting for next year as fiscal deficit. Now here again, there will be a few levers to point out. Like I mentioned, divestment targets could be extremely aggressive, and that is needed. I would really say that is necessary. It's an absolute necessary expenditure, receipts that they should build, but provided it is delivered as well. Unfortunately, we are always slipping on that target. That is the issue with a very aggressive divestment. So we'll have to take that with a pinch of salt. But otherwise, I would say that there is going to be a consolidation, but I don't expect a very aggressive consolidation. So from a 7.1, we are looking at a 5.5% fiscal deficit. So that kind of a consolidation is coming largely, I would say, because tax buoyancy is expected to go higher, not because a stimulus package is coming. So from an immediate income support, I see limited scope in the budget because tax incentives are going to be bare minimum, I would say, again. But from a medium-term perspective, I think the budget is going to be quite positive. They would lay out the foundations for a sustainably higher growth to that extent. I would end here right now. Maybe we can take further questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Upasana. It was actually something that was very, very insightful. Moving on to the next speaker of the evening, I have with me Mr. Rusmik Ocha. Rusmik is the head of Fundamental Research Desk, Kotak Securities. In his 25 years of work experience, Rusmik has devoted more than 13 years in equity research and 11 years in wealth management or private banking. He started his career in wealth management as portfolio manager in Karvy PCG, and he contributed in Kotak Wealth Management for 6 years, heading equities in the product team, and also had worked with 2 foreign banks in private bank space, PNB Paribas, and Rusmik is equipped with deep understanding of most sectors and market by the virtue of being the head of research in 3 organizations. So without any further delay, I would like to invite Mr. Rusmik Ocha. After that, we will open the floor for question and answers. You will get the bar where you can write down your questions along with your names so that we can address those questions. So over to you, Rusmik.
Thanks, Amrita, and thanks everyone for joining this webinar. I have some few slides to share because of the impact which can come in. So this time around, actually, there are broader themes, as Upasana said, that it will be more higher expenditure, infrastructure, healthcare, and a lot of thrust on social infrastructure also. So, I have just highlighted few focus areas in which sectors can get impacted over there. It's little early days to anticipate anything from a sector perspective, and maybe we'll have one more session post this, so that time we'll be able to give you more clarity on what is the specific impact on particular sectors and companies. So obviously the thrust is going to be on infrastructure this time around. So the more infrastructure spending on roads, railways, on government schemes, and probably maybe states will also chip in. But this time, because of fiscal consideration, we're not very sure how much states could add in over here. Anyways, if over the last few years, the total capex has been going down as a percentage of GDP. Hopefully, this year we could see a leg up in the FY22 number. So from our universe, most of the stocks have run up. So what I've done is I've just considered stocks where the upside is also very good. So obviously, I think L&T is the best proxy to play the infrastructure theme. It has got a lot of orders also they have been winning. Pricing power is coming back to L&T, and they're also getting more orders from the international market also. So L&T is one good proxy to play the entire infrastructure theme going forward. And another play is Kalpataru, because Kalpataru is very diversified. They're into transmission distribution, they're into railways, they're into logistics, and they're also into some of the other spaces which are indirectly linked to the infrastructure play. So these are two good proxies we feel, where we have decent upside also going forward. The next focus is obviously it's going to be roads and railways. A lot of spending in terms of building, and Mr. Gadkari has been doing a very good job on the road infrastructure built up. So we could see some more orders coming in for the road sector going forward, because in this fiscal year what has happened is during the lockdown period in the first half, a lot of orders, everything had to go slow, and now we're seeing a lot of orders coming in for the road project companies. And hopefully if the number is a little larger for next year, then we could see this trend continuing for next year also. So from our universe, there are three companies in this space which we like: PNC Infratech, KNR Construction. Both have been very diligent in completing the orders in time. Yeah. Yeah, I moved, I think so. So, okay, just one second. It is slideshow only. I don't know why it is not happening. Okay, now it's moved. Yeah, sorry, my mistake. So I'm saying A is on the road side, we have liking to PNC Infratech and KNR Construction. Quality-wise, these are two very good companies in the space. They've been executing orders on time and getting the bonuses from the NHA and MORTH also. And IRB Infra is a value play where the toll collections have started going up, and hopefully once the FASTags become compulsory going forward, we'll see much more improvement in the toll collections going forward. So these are the three companies which you like in this space. Next focus is local manufacturing. Make in India or Atmanirbhar is something which will again be focus of the budget. Obviously, we have already heard, on the PLI schemes, and there are a lot of industries which could be good export generators also, and there will be so many industries where there could be import substitution, and a lot of local replacement of imports is something what the government wants in. So most of the, for example, in case of mobile phones and manufacturing mobile phone electronic parts and all that, we don't have much, a lot of companies in the listed space over there. And similar goes with food processing and textiles, because these are little cyclical businesses. So I think auto ancillary is one space which could be a big beneficiary. We'll have to look at a lot of automobile ancillary companies which could benefit. Varroc Engineering, one company in our universe which we like, because it has got global presence. It supplies to EV player like Tesla also. So even if the EV boom comes in, it will be in a better space to meet the demands of most of the global OEM companies. And in pharma, we don't cover much of the bulk drug companies, but that's the space where most of the excitement is. And you could see a lot of bulk drug companies coming into focus because of this PLI scheme and Make in India going forward. Then another focus area will be housing. and indirect beneficiary could be the real estate space. Uh, some of the states like Maharashtra have started giving some incentive by trying to revive the demand for the property by lowering the stamp duties, and there could be continued thrust on urban housing going forward, and we could see some more benefits on the tax side also, if possible, coming into the budget. So hopefully after Maharashtra and Karnataka, we expect some more states also to come forth in terms of providing some more incentive for the housing and the real estate space. In the affordable housing, we don't have much, companies listed because most of the companies which are there into affordable housing are some of the smaller. But out of the larger companies, some of the companies which could benefit either because of the state incentives and benefits coming from lower stamp duties and other benefits. I think so. Oberoi Realty and Suntec Realty stand to benefit, in particularly in Mumbai and Maharashtra region. And Sobha is one company which is pure retail kind of a play. It has got less of commercial assets, more of residential assets. So, from a pure residential play, Sobha is one company to look for going forward. Disinvestment, I think so. Upasana is already covered. So, most probably FY21 earlier, the target was 2 lakh crore. Now we are budgeting only around 30,000 crores. So we are expecting the divestment of BPCL LIC to happen in next fiscal year now. So BPCL will be the big strategic divestment to watch out for. If that goes through, then we could see some more strategic divestments coming from the government side. And if one BPCL gets re-rated post divestment, that could lead to a trigger in re-rating of a lot of the other PSU names also after BPCL. Just a few updates on the market. So we're expecting in April, post the pandemic, we were almost looking at zero earnings growth this year. But the surprise numbers that came in Q1 and Q2 and the ongoing season, Q3 earnings season, also throwing a lot of positive surprises. So we're now expecting around 12% growth this year, and next year 29% on the low base of first half of this fiscal year and 19% thereof. So this could be after that FY4 to FY7 phase. This could be another phase where you will see very good earnings growth for the next 2-3 years, because in the last 5 years the earnings CAGR has just been around 2 to 3% only. So this healthy earnings CAGR trajectory could be one prime reason why markets could be trading at elevated levels, because once this 2 years of growth builds in, you will have another capex cycle also kicking in, and that could provide visibility for the next few years. So I think we're entering into interesting times, and this year has been one year which has shown that in spite of maybe uncertainty surrounding it, the companies are able to deliver. Hopefully, we'll have to wait and see if the raw material prices soften, because that's one risk which can lead to some bit of earnings cut going forward if margins get impacted. Otherwise, if corporates are able to raise prices and pass it on, then I think so you'll see a very healthy revenue and bottom line growth. And as Upasana said, this is one of the reasons why we're looking at healthy corporate tax collection also in the budget. On the sectors, this is little, the fonts are a little tiny, but what I wanted to highlight is there are some yellow shadings over here. So these are the shading sectors. Shaded sectors are the sectors where we expect a combination of growth and valuation, which is in favor of these sectors. And these are sectors which have not participated in the last calendar year also. So they stand to benefit. And these are the sectors which are mainly, a play on the recovery of the economy also. So it is time, actually last year was a time when defensive sectors like IT, pharma did well. Maybe this year is a year when economy driven sectors could do well. So banks, PMI, price to book is relevant. They're trading at just 2.1 times. Historic range of the banking sector for the last 10 years is 1.4 times to 2.8 times. So it's somewhere in between in terms of valuation. Capital goods could be a play on the revival of infrastructure, and later on maybe from FY23 onwards some bit of capex also. Utilities should do well because demand for power has been good, and most of the utilities are now getting into renewable space. So that could be the next leg of growth for them after the saturation or less projects coming on the thermal side. Gas utilities also should do well because the government is placing a lot of thrust on creating an entire gas grid across the country, and there is a zeal from the government. They want the gas component in the overall fuel consumption to move up from around 6% to 15%. So we like gas utilities like GAIL, Mahanagar Gas over here. Metals and mining, as the demand and the economies recover after the vaccination in the second half of this calendar year, metal prices could also remain firm, and that could be one driving force for metal companies. Valuations are quite reasonable, but we would play not the steel companies, but the non-ferrous companies like Hindustan Zinc, Hindalco in this space. Oil and gas, especially PSU marketing companies, look quite interesting. BPCL, HPCL, IOC are the names to look for in this space. And telecommunication, because ARPUs are likely to go up, it's inevitable they have to go up now. So telecom space we like Bharti Airtel, and Reliance is an indirect proxy to the telecom growth going forward. Just to give you a feel of the where the markets can take support. So budget is one event. Actually, it's not a it's not going to be a big make or break event because we've already seen a huge rally in the market, and the government has been announcing a lot of series of announcements in the course of the year also. So if you see the left hand side chart, I've just drawn a line which is a top breakout of Nifty, which comes to around 13,000. So the first support for market, if market comes down, could be 13,000, and after that maybe the previous breakout with top, which was 12,430, and thereafter around 11 to 11,500 range, where the 200-day moving average and the 200 weekly moving average are placed. So there are a lot of major support areas for the market going forward between 11,000 to 13,000. So hopefully, depending on the way the budget comes out and the global markets behave, we could see maybe if Nifty, if there is disappointment in the market, then these are the levels to watch out for: 12,000, 12,430, and 11,500 or 11,000 zone. So that's it from our side. We can open the floor for Q&A now.
Right. Rusmik, thank you so much for your session. I'm sure this is going to be extremely helpful for our clients and the guests who are attending. We do have a lot of questions coming in from the audience, but to both of you, to start with the questions, I believe that you can also see the questions. I have this one question that I can see, and it's something that I would like to ask on behalf of everyone. To both of you, what difference do you see in respect of the budget this year in comparison to any other year? Because it's a very different year.
Should I take that first?
Yeah, Upasna.
Okay, so honestly, if you ask me, I do not really expect anything much. As in, yes, for example, I think we should realize one thing, that the budget has, it is something which is used to provide a forward guidance. Now, the way it used to be a decade back or so, when once we used to have a tax change policy, we used to all of that used to be defined once a year, and everything used to be status quo. Now that doesn't really happen. For example, if you look at the entire structure of the budget, we do get to see various changes in policies over the course of the years. Not just change, but additional, new, a lot of back and forth things do happen. So if you ask me, how does it really stand out compared to others just because we are emerging out of a pandemic? I would say this budget has to come upfront to give a very clear forward guidance for a sustainably high growth, like I mentioned before as well. I do expect some of it could be repetitive in the sense that, a lot of pillars of growth that we've talked about, agriculture needs a boost. A significant agricultural reforms are required. Some of them have been are under debate, of course, but otherwise, various other issues are there still in terms of financing of the agricultural sector. Probably that could come about. What we need is infrastructure related information that has to be provide clarity on. So what we need is a much more comprehensive forward guidance for a 5-year vision rather than just, so it just lays the foundation for a long-term growth. That's what I would say, with a clear focus on infrastructure, like I mentioned again. But otherwise, if you ask me, I would say this is going to be just like any other budget, with few outlines or defining statements which are going to be giving us a much more positive feel for a better future for the next, a vision. It's like going to be a vision budget rather than just thinking about what can come about in the next 3 months, how spending can be ramped up through temporary measures. I don't see that really happen in this kind of a budget.
Right. Thank you so much. Rusmik, yes, you have to add something?
No, the only thing I want to add is, this post-COVID, and the China +1 policy is a great boon for India. The government has been making steps to capitalize on that. Maybe the budget could take it forward, maybe by tinkering with a lot of import duties. So unlike earlier, we used to see excise duty changes. That's not going to happen because of GST. But yes, I think we can expect some changes, material changes in the import duty structure, either on the raw material or on the final product in the budget, which could have impact on sectors and stocks. So that is one thing to watch out for in the budget as far as sectors are concerned.
Right.
Yeah. If I can just add something more, like Rusmik did mention about the PLI scheme for manufacturing. So, for example, manufacturing has to be the focus, and it will be talked about in the budget. But will they add more sectors under PLI? No, because they've already announced several measures on account of PLI. So I don't expect an add-on to that, but there will be re-emphasis on manufacturing. Atmanirbhar vision, I think that is going to be the key foundation for the entire budget. So yes, I think there could be some tweaks to the custom duties, like Rusmik did mention. So there would be focus areas, but they may not be changing policies or adding certain things just during the budget, because we're already seeing most of the changes that are already underway, most of the policies which have been announced or are already getting announced. So this may not necessarily be just the place to announce all the measures in one go.
Right, because we do have many, concerns and questions from the audience in reference to Atmanirbhar Bharat. So thank you very much for addressing that. Moving on to you, Rusmik, I do have a question from someone who asks very specifically, what is the role that this union budget is going to play in terms of market correction? What is the total impact that is going to happen?
So as I mentioned, I think now markets the way to look forward is we are heading to a budget. For that, we already had a 90% run up in the market from the March lows. So it's actually a synchronized market, and we are very closely knitted with the global markets. So we are seeing some kind of correction in the US markets, and over here also, we are a little bit dependent on FII flows. So any negative outflows from the market will be very deciding in terms of any correction. One. Two is, I think valuations are on the higher side, so that is one concern which has been there. But since earnings are coming out very good, and flow is something which we expect that emerging markets can attract more flows going forward, because the global view is that the dollar could remain a little weak. So considering that emerging markets do well, flows come in emerging markets, and earnings continue to remain a little healthy, then we're not expecting a crash in the market. Budget could be one reason where there could be profit taking on account of that. That is very much possible, because the volumes and the depth in the market is very high during these events, and it gives opportunity for FIIs to offload sometimes if they wish to. But maybe a 10%, 12% correction from the peak is healthy for the market because of the the continuous rise we have seen. Otherwise, it could lead to some bubble formation. So intermittent corrections are healthy and welcome. I think if we go down to 13,000, it will be a very healthy sign because some consolidation correction is needed in the market the way it has gone up. So I would suggest uh, depending on if there is some negatives coming out for the budget, then it could lead to some more correction. As of now, I think so. We are seeing some kind of correction in the global markets also. That's how. So it will be. I think it will be linked with the global markets and some developments on the local front, which will drive the market. But the way it has fallen, I think so. It's broken 14. So maybe probability of going to 13,000 seems little higher side from here till maybe the next 1 month or so.
Right. Thank you so much. Moving on to you, Pasna. I have one question. Will RBI have a more accommodative monetary policy in case growth slows down in FY 2020? What is your view on that?
See, here the situation is such that during the pandemic, RBI did increase its pace of accommodation for sure. If we were to recall, then from February 2019, RBI has been on a path of easing. Accommodative stance had already started. A fair amount of asset purchases or let's say bond buying was already happening by the RBI. So it was already in an accommodative phase. And then comes the pandemic wherein RBI steps up its accommodation. Now as the growth is normalizing, inflation may be again moderating, but it's not expected to remain very low for too long. In that kind of an environment, I do expect that the excesses of RBI's accommodation, which was particular to the pandemic, that is going to be slowly getting withdrawn. So that is not to say that there will be a repo rate hike. That is not what I imply. But what I'm trying to say is that there is immense amount of liquidity floating in the system, banking system, if you see. And that is resulting in a lot of distortions across money market curve. And that distortion is something which I believe RBI will eventually correct. They have already, started the process very gradually. And I think that is going to be underway as we go into the next year as well. So the way I look at this is that accommodation would be happening, withdrawal of accommodation would be happening at a very gradual pace with the shorter end of the curve. The money market largely because of excessive liquidity has been significantly outperforming the far end of the curve. So I think that adjustment is going to happen somewhere. So we will see rates, shorter end of the curve rates going slightly higher compared to the far end because of some kind of a withdrawal in accommodation.
Right, I understand. Moving on to you, Rusmik, I have many, sector-specific questions in front of me and also company-specific questions. So your thoughts on what are the sectors that will benefit and the companies that can benefit from, for example, the further impetus to housing sector?
Thanks, Amrita. So I've covered few of those aspects in the slides. So obviously, infrastructure, and you have to play some of the infrastructure companies which could benefit. There will be thrust on maybe renewables also. So power utilities, L&Ts, Thermax, Kalpatra Power, KEC International, these are companies which could benefit. Second angle could be thrust on more on the local manufacturing. So, pharmaceutical companies, specialty chemical companies, auto ancillary companies, these are the companies to watch out for because they will benefit. These announcements could give you a little longer visibility in these companies because in many of these sectors, you will see a lot of FDI also coming in, and that could lead to a lot of capacity built up, capacity expansion, and this could be a structural long-term theme or story which could develop going forward. So play this also. And in case of housing, obviously, as Upasna said, that housing has a lot of multiplier effect. So if the government actually gives some more impetus to housing and some more tax benefits, I think so. And if the state governments also cooperate and provide some more incentive for the real estate sector in the local states, I think this could be a good combination because if the real estate starts moving, it could benefit a lot of industries,
Right.
which rely on real estate. So these are some of the segments. But yeah, I think real estate, I have mentioned Soba, Oberoi, Suntec. Some of the other names have moved up, but yes, if DLF falls, you can look at DLF also in that space.
Right. Thank you so much. I have many questions that are coming in terms of the tax. So anything that you predict in terms of tax rates, any changes in the tax rates and income tax for salary and bank interest on deposits?
Okay, on income tax, I do not really expect any tweaks really. Like what I do expect is a possibility of a cess on, the super rich. Largely because of the health related increased expenditure that we're expecting for COVID related vaccines. So I think there is a possibility of an additional cess that could come about. But apart from that, on a regular basis, I don't expect any tweaks to the income tax slabs. Largely because this is a year when the government would not really want to touch upon as much possible on the income tax side, because they cannot afford to reduce their inflows coming from there. So I think it is more important that they spend in the priority sectors that they need to, rather than really try and reduce across the board income tax. So my sense is they would not want to be tweaking the income tax slabs, but yes, there could be a cess of about 4 to 5% on the super rich, a COVID cess also.
Right. Thank you very much. Upasana and Rusmik, both of you, we do have the questions. We have sent it to you also. Would you like to pick a few questions of interest from your end and also answer them? I think we have sent you a mail regarding that. But moving on to the next question that I have, Rusmik, this is specifically for you. What is the kind of upside or downside you are seeing in case budget is very good or very bad?
Okay, the upside anyway seems like capped in the market because of the extremely rich valuations. So the market is trading at almost around 20 to 23 times in 1 year forward, and 1 year forward already captures 80% of the earnings growth is likely to come in FY22. So the market will be a function of how earnings upgrades or downgrades come in future, because there is no scope for any re-rating in the market. The re-rating game is already played out. Now, as I mentioned, between April and now, we saw almost a 12% jump in earnings for FY21. So to that extent, instead of market stopping at 13,000, you had another 12-13% move in the market. So we went to 14,700 or so. Now, what could happen is, if the earnings keep on delivering the way they are in the last 3 quarters, and one needs to keep in mind that the Q1, Q2 of next fiscal, the base is going to be very low. So we'll have super abnormal earnings growth coming in a lot of the economy-driven and service-driven sectors. So these are some of the reasons why we feel that now a crash doesn't seem so in the market. We're not expecting any major crash in the market. But yes, a normal course correction is possible. So on the higher side, maybe we can see Nifty going to around 15,500 or so in best case scenario. And on the downside, I think we expect the first support to have come at around 13,000. And if there is a worldwide deep correction, then maybe we head to around 11,500. So these are the two major levels of supports which we are seeing. And on the higher side, if budget surprises and if the global markets also again start their uptick, that will be a function of how the COVID cases subside. So right now, most of the developed markets are facing severe second wave of COVID. If this COVID wave subsides as winter recedes, probably, or probably the strained version is not so serious, then I think so we could see FII flows resuming, and maybe markets go to around 15,500. That's the way I'm looking at it. There's another angle to look out for, is we're saying that whatever peak happens, it happens in the first half, and then maybe you could see some consolidation correction phase in between in the second half of this calendar year. because you could see some bit of inflation setting in, bond yields slightly hardening in the second half, which could lead to a little bit of contraction in bond Ps, and to that extent, some contraction in the valuations of equities would also follow.
Right. Moving on to Upasna, in reference to this entire pandemic and the process of getting everyone vaccinated in the country, do you think that the expenditure will prove to be a burden in the budget?
I think largely we are budgeting in a much higher health-related expenditure in our overall fiscal maths, and that is clearly because the drive that is going on right now and the expectations that are there to cover as much population as possible in the next few months will involve fair amount of expenditure. But like I said, we will have to wait and watch whether how is the distribution of the expenditure going to happen, whether it's going to be center and state together, or is it just going to be borne by the center. We still don't know. Now, estimates are that about 50 to 70,000 crore is the overall cost for vaccinating, the maximum amount of population in India. And for that, for now, at least, we have broadly incorporated that in the center's budget. But at some point, it may happen that it may get split between the center and the state, which we'll have to wait and watch for more clarity. But yes, for now, we have already budgeted that in. So I think when I mentioned infrastructure focus, I actually talked about, I meant both physical infrastructure and social infrastructure. For social, I think there will clearly, the health-related expenditure is going to be much higher. Probably education-related expenditure will not be as high this time, because, like I mentioned, that there's going to be prioritization. So this time, health will precede over any other component of expenditure. And hence, we are already budgeting in a decent amount of pickup in health-related expenditure. Plus, I also expect some kind of health-related incentives to ensure that more population goes for health insurance. So there is a possibility that we see some kind of tweaks in incentive structure to get more and more people into health insurance.
Right. Moving on to you, Rusmik, I just have, in reference to the recently announced PLI scheme, do you think will there be any more changes in the import duties in the budget?
No, I think Upasna has already said that the both sectors may not come in.
Right.
It's only, in a lot of the sectors, there is an anomaly. The anomaly is that the duties on raw materials are much more higher than the duties on the finished products. So maybe government would like to correct that anomaly, and to that extent, we could see some bit of changes in import duties. Then there are certain items which the government wants them to manufacture in India. So certain businesses where a big portion of the consumption is imports, there you could see some incentives for a lot of the manufacturers. It's already announced the PLI schemes to a large extent, but I'm expecting some individual course corrections in the import duty so that it gels with the PLI scheme. I think that's what we can anticipate and expect in the budget going forward.
Right. Any specific thought that you would like to address, Rusmik, in terms of the questions and in terms of for the audience?
No, so there are some questions on sectors and companies. It's a little premature right now to answer them. So I am reserving those. Actually, maybe we could address them once the budget in our post-budget session, because we'll have more clarity post that. Anyways, right now what is happening is the earnings season is also on, and companies are reacting to numbers also. So it's better to actually just wait out, see the budget, get the impact on sectors and companies, and correlate with the results also, and then take a call in terms of valuations and in terms of upside, whether there is scope for making money. So ultimately, there has to be scope for making money. Otherwise, certain times if almost everything is factored in, then it doesn't make sense to still participate. So I will reserve a few questions on sectors and stocks. Maybe we can take it post budget with
Right.
more clarity coming in the budget.
Upasana, any thoughts from your end in terms of the questions that we have received? Because that is specifically the reason why I did not ask those, sector-specific questions, because it will be decided later on, and we will have a better understanding of it. But from your end?
No, I think broadly we've covered. I just went through all the
Right.
questions, but I
Right.
guess there was also a question on interest rates by the
Hmm.
banks. That is not something which which the budget would really address.
Correct.
So that is something which it depends on how the monetary policy stance would be and how the liquidity situation would be, and accordingly how the pass through of or the transmission of that would be in terms of rates. So I don't really expect anything from the budget on that account. So interest rates on deposits, there's a question on that I saw,
Yes.
is not something which is in the purview of the budget. So I don't expect it.
Exactly. That is one of the reasons why I did not address it. But moving forward, if we do not have any questions, the last concluding lines from your end, if you have any, and then we can, move on.
I just wanted one understanding from Upasana, if she can just guide us on the bond yields, because these bond yields are very crucial for the equity markets also. Your thought on how you anticipate the bond yields, maybe in the global US, European bond yields and India, it will help us in taking a informed decision on the equities also.
Sure. Basically, if we look at how rates have been this year, FY21, then we've had considerable amount of support from RBI, verbal as well as real-time intervention coming. It has been through various measures. One is, of course, excessive amount of liquidity, which has prompted the banks into investing into GSEC. So that has led to capped the, I would say, upside to the yields. RBI itself has been doing Operation Twist kind of measures. RBI has done outright OMO purchases. RBI has also indicated through devolvement or not taking up certain auctions, accepting certain auctions. So there has been clear signals that have been coming from RBI at different points in time to cap any upside to yields this year. So somewhere the supply side pressure, if you ask me, was there, but it got nicely lapped up, and hence we've seen a cap to the yields. Now going ahead into next year, we'll have a little better clarity on Monday, because obviously they will announce the gross borrowing number. But for now, we are looking at a gross borrowing number of 10.7 lakh crore as against a 13.1 lakh crore in FY21. Now this number could honestly be a little lower as well. That's where the surprise element will be. If I talk about the markets, let's say, 10 to 11 lakh crore is the broad spectrum of expectations from the market. Now, any number of gross borrowing below 10 lakh crore will be positive market, clearly, because that is something which is psychologically a much lower number than 10 lakh crores. There's a psychological number. I'll have to be a little wary on the assumptions. So like we discussed, divestment and other things. So we'll have to look at the nitty-gritties and all. But at this point, if a number is announced, anywhere around 10.5 lakh crore, then the supply side pressures are going to be there into next year. And like I said, because RBI has to withdraw the excessive accommodation that is there, the ability of RBI to do outright OMO purchases is going to be very limited. So to that extent, the supply pressure would be there. Banks have already over-invested in GSEC. So now with credit picking up, as demand is picking up, the credit cycle is picking up, we will start seeing diversification of resources by the banks as well. So we don't expect as much investment by the banks into GSEC. So somewhere the demand-supply dynamics is not working in favor of bonds. And hence, I do expect rates to go higher. Plus, like I'm saying, that we are looking at policy normalization as well. That also starts weighing on the bond markets. And globally, like you mentioned, we are expecting, in the first 2-3 months of this year, we might see hiccups in terms of delay, in terms of rollouts of vaccines, etc. But I think we will normalize post that once the drive is on properly. And as demand starts picking up, I do expect the yields to start going higher again there as well. especially in the US, for example, because there's a big fiscal stimulus package which is due. So the steepening of the curve is going to be one important parameter to look at. The shorter end of the curve again in the US is going to be still in check because rates are likely to remain low for prolonged period of time. They have still said that they've committed at least till 2022 or so for now. So rates on the shorter end, liquidity is not a problem. But the far end of the curve in the US is also going to be under pressure because of excessive fiscal stimulus that is coming through. So I think that is something which we'll have to keep in mind. But for India, I think we could see a little flattening of the curve because shorter end comes under pressure because we will be one of the few economies who's withdrawing, if not exactly withdrawing, but slowly withdrawing. Maybe it's not going to be very aggressive, but we'll be slowly withdrawing. And so rates on the shorter end will go up. And on the far end, I think RBI, to make it liquidity neutral, we may still see operation twist kind of measures continuing. So we might see a little bit cap on the far end of the curve. So the 10-year, if you ask me, the range is 6.25 to 6.75 for next year. We're looking at that range with a median around 6.5. 6.75 may or may not, it may happen, but it will not sustain probably. But 6.5 is something which probably we will be seeing a median around that level.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Upasana. Rasmik, moving on to you, any last comments? But I just wanted to ask you, I think we were discussing some time back. Would you like to share your thoughts on any changes in STTs in the budget?
No, on the STT front, I don't think the government will change because anyways the markets are in a very buoyant shape right now. Looking at the healthy environmental market which is right now, I don't think so you can expect any change in the STT as such, because that amount is not a big amount for the government to actually where they can make any big collections over there. So that's on the STT. On my side, I think so. I would say maybe it could be it will be a budget which will give more direction, vision, rather than actually talking on the smaller aspects. The only smaller aspects to watch out for is the import duty changes, which will be more specific to sectors and companies. Otherwise, I think so. After a week of the budget, markets will be as usual, following earnings, global markets, taking cues of international markets, and so. So maybe maybe just take it as it comes in the and just move on. That's my only suggestion. And anyways, we'll discuss more post budget if required.
That's right. We will be meeting on the 3rd again for the post-budget webinar, for which every one of you will be receiving the invites from our end. But I hope this pre-budget session is helpful for all of us to understand what to expect and what can be done from the budget personally from our end. And on that note, I would like to thank Upasana and Rasmik for joining us today, and also, ladies and gentlemen, you for being a part of this session. And we meet on the 3rd again. So on that note, thank you very much and good night to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.